You're listening to the Pink Property Podcast, where each week we will discuss hot property topics, introduce you to members of our team as well as special guests, and let you know about all the things that are going on at David Lee. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I'm Lee O'Brien and joined with David Kirby, both directors here at David Lee. This week we wanted to talk to you about houses versus flats. And really the question is, what's the best investment? Two of the most common forms of residential investment in the UK are either in houses or flats. And a question that we're often asked by incoming investors and potential investors is, what should they go for? The answer's a bit long-winded and there are pros and cons to each purchase. So we wanted to run through a few reasons and a few points for consideration, really, that you should make before making your investment in either a house or a flat. Yep. Dave, kick us off.
Yeah, so number one, big question we get asked, flats or houses? What's better, a flat or a house? And I think that's probably location driven, to be honest. Locally, the majority of our investors probably own houses. They like the freehold element of that rather than leasehold. But city centres, Manchester, London, Birmingham, I would expect that flats are probably more in demand. So yeah, probably location drives that one, unfortunately. So yeah, depending on where you are, probably city centres, more the flat side, and for residential locations outside of these big cities, probably houses.
Number two would be that houses usually have gardens. This has really quite changed over the past 18 months. Since going through the first lockdown, searches for rental properties with gardens jumped by 70% since March 2020. People craved for that bit of outside space. Now, it's not to say that flats don't have gardens. They often, they can have roof terraces. Some do have gardens and balconies, but more often than not, houses have a garden, and that's a real in-demand piece at the minute for your incoming tenants.
Absolutely, yeah. Number three, parking. Parking's a big issue everywhere. So parking's in demand. Again, some city centres won't have it, but we see out here parking adds a premium to properties. Some properties without parking do really struggle to let. Garages, on the other hand, not quite as important, depending on where you are in the marketplace. Some people do require a garage for storage, but generally the position to park a car or two cars is the most important bit. So yeah, if you can find something with parking, much better.
Number four is that houses are generally freehold. This does come with a bit of a caveat, as probably 95% of houses are freehold. There are some that are held under a lease, so please check before you buy. But what being freehold really means is that the land beneath your home and the sky above you is owned by you in that freehold, under that freehold title, and you're not required to pay any ground rent to an overarching freeholder, which is actually just an extra cost to consider that comes off of your profit when you are renting.
Next one is appreciating value. So not all your income is due to the monthly rent that comes in. It's also the appreciating value of your asset. What appreciates more than others? So generally freehold you would expect to appreciate more. You don't have the issue of a decreasing lease if it is a leasehold property. Zoopla have suggested that over the last 20 years, the biggest rise in property is in terrace properties. So
terrace houses,
probably terrace houses are going to increase the most in value.
Number six is city living. If you are looking to invest in the big cities of the UK, which do have fantastic rental markets and good yields, then there is a consistent demand in those big city areas for flats over houses. They do make up the predominance of the property available in those places. And I would suggest that, investing in a city, that an apartment will be a far better bet for you than a house. as the more of the population are going to be able to afford them, and you're going to have a wider pool of tenants to choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. Flats are cheaper is quite often a phrase we hear. Generally, probably yes. Certainly in the boroughs and the suburbs of England. Some of the city centres, maybe not so much. But again, it's all down to your budget. If your budget is lower end, it's probably that you're aiming at apartments, flats, maisonettes, rather than the houses. So generally, flats will be that bit cheaper and maybe more affordable for you.
Number 8 is service charge. Now, it's just something to be aware of, really. So most flats will generally come with a service charge, and what's included in the service charge can vary, but generally on the whole, that you pay a monthly or annual service charge to the management company that look after the block of apartments that you own an apartment within. It can pay for things like window cleaning, communal gardens, overall insurance of the building, can cover any repairs and damages to the roof, communal hallways, replacing light bulbs, repairing lifts, etc. But you must consider this against your costs analysis. So when you are calculating your return and your potential return on your investment, please remember that service charge can play a big role, can be anything up to sort of 2 months worth of your rent over the entire year in value. So couple that with the ground rent, then I'd safely say it's probably approaching 2 months rent, certainly out here in actual costs. So buyer beware, really. There will be a service charge if you're buying an apartment in 95% of cases. Check what that is, understand what it actually covers. However, it does come on the flip side, is that those works would have had to be carried out and paid for by you if you own the property freehold. So in a roundabout way, the money is potentially going to be spent in some direction, whether it's freehold or leasehold, but make sure that you are building that into your cost analysis.
Absolutely. Point number 9 is cladding. Now, this is obviously more of a recent issue for property since the disaster at Grenfell Tower. Now, generally, if a property is over 18 metres in height and there's any construction or anything on the outside of the property that is not brick, then there could be an issue with cladding. So again, this is something you need to consider. It's something to consider speaking to the freeholder or the freeholder's agent, managing agent. Speaking to a local management company the other day that run one of the big blocks of apartments in Bishop Stortford, and for them to carry out the safety check on the property, it's £30,000 for the block, which obviously would get shared as a cost amongst the leaseholders. So just something to be aware of. Mortgages are going to be tricky on them. There could be some costs involved later down the line. So cladding of any kind, shape or form, you need to consider, and you need to take some sort of expert advice on before you entertain it.
So in conclusion, there are absolutely advantages and disadvantages of both buying houses and apartments. And I think what you need to be really clear on when you're starting on this journey and looking at investment property is what is your overall goal? You know, do you want to be invested in a city centre? Are you looking for capital growth, or are you looking purely for income, or a little bit of both? I think you need to be clear around your property goals and your property investment goals, and ensure that either the properties actually align to getting you to where you want to be. If you are limited on funds and you've only got so much deposit, then maybe the lower end of the market and the apartments, the 1 beds, the 2 beds, maybe the 1 bedroom houses, that's your only option. And I think from our part, we would say, don't delay. It actually, if you are ready to buy, you are ready to get on the market, and it represents a good deal that meets your goals, get on the market and get on this journey, because capital growth, it doesn't work unless you're invested. So don't wait on the sidelines for the perfect deal. Actually get yourself into the market and sort of on with that property journey. So I hope that helps. I hope it might raise some questions. If you've got any other questions, or if anything's spurred off the back of that, please reach out to either of us. We'd be happy to help, helping landlord investor clients build portfolios all the time. So please feel free to reach out to us. You can comment below or jump on the website, and all of the contact details are there. Thanks as ever for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.